620 Live, so that we may all speak boldly. Hey everybody, welcome back. I hope that you all had a very Merry Christmas and hope that you all have a very good and safe New Year. It's time to get back to our 7 Blessings of Revelation study. So let's get back to Revelation chapter 19 and verse 9. Now, we are talking about the marriage supper of the Lamb, so let's continue to go over some of the Jewish marriage customs here. And admittedly, I did not go into like extreme in-depth detail because it could get tedious and, get rather, for lack of a better term, boring. So I did get some of these, and we'll talk about some of them, list them, and go from there. But here are some Jewish marriage customs, and with this one, it's not for love, but to benefit both families. Now, we just got through with Christmas, and we know that Joseph and Mary were betrothed, which was for all intents and purposes they were married, but had not consummated the marriage. Now, and this tells us here this marrying for benefit of both families. We see that a lot in ancient times, such as with, princesses and princes, dukes and duchesses, and people of nobility would marry for treaties, for gaining some power, for wealth, for land, for a variety of different reasons. But in essence, it would benefit both parties involved. And I'm not saying that they did not love each other, nor am I saying that they would not grow to love each other, given time or over time. However, you want to say that. But what I am saying is, in the beginning, it started out as, a beneficial thing for both families involved. Now, the way that the Jewish people would do it is that fathers of the bride and groom would begin with the betrothal or engagement. And much like today, whenever someone gets married, they typically get engaged before they get married. I'm sure there are some cases where people just said, hey, you want to get married? And then they get married. But, that's still, there you are, getting engaged no matter how long. But the engagement or the betrothal process here for the Jewish people would typically last, a year or so. And in a lot of cases, according to this research that I did, and please forgive me if I not really sound surprised, but it has been a little bit since I looked back at this, because I had done a lot of the research and then come back to doing this recording, and it's not really that I've forgotten it, but with the holiday season and everything, it's your mind's not exactly here, but not exactly not here at the same time. But the bride and groom may never have met. And like I was saying about the nobility of, prince and princess and other such nobility, they may never have met. They may have met before. And I'm guessing that, in some cases they could even have known each other for their whole life. You know, each case is different, each situation is different. So, um, but there are evidently some cases in where neither party has ever met before. Um, Betrothals here, could happen even at a young age. Uh, the the groom's father would pay the price for the bride, and it is called, and I am assuming that I am pronouncing this correctly, moher, which is how my screen reader says it. I guess it could be mohar. Either way, Mohar. That's Mohar, and it is, I guess depending on the female in question, would depend on how much the mohar's value was, because unlike in today's society, marriages then were male and female. And let's look at this here as I continue down my notes. The groom would give a gift to the bride called a matin, and again that's assuming that I'm pronouncing this correctly, and it's Mattan. Again, that's Mattan. And the gift would become part of the property that the bride would bring into the marriage. So if you think about it in one aspect, the groom is giving them both a gift. Or, it could be something that he wanted, and whenever he gave it to the bride, she would bring it back to the marriage. So, it's kind of like, for lack of a better way to explain it, in fact, I think this is a pretty good way to explain it, it's a gift for the household, a gift for the couple. The gift that the groom would give was not always money, but it could be like property or services, I guess. Like some of the property could be, say, cattle, goats, sheep, something along those lines. Services could be like, I guess sewing, gardening, pot making, glass making, blacksmithing, things along those lines as well. And the betrothal that couples went through was as binding as the actual marriage was. And what would happen whenever these people or these couples would become betrothed is that they would have witnesses actually come and watch them sign a marriage contract, a legal binding document that was called ketubah. And that is, I'm going to spell it for you here, so if you want to look it up and see the actual spelling, you can. That's Ketubah. Ketubah. And it was a very common practice for back in that time for the bride to join the groom's household. Like um, like would actually go like live with them at their house, or you know, go stay with them. Um, and it was like they would go and live, or the bride would go and live with the groom and his family, rather than starting their own, you know, household. And it's kind of like, for lack of a better way to explain it, and I don't know, I've said that a lot here in this podcast, and forgive me, the family would stay together. Family meant a lot to them, so you know it was very important to them. If the bride and groom were of a marriageable age, the groom would return back to his father's house to begin building an addition onto the house in which he lived at, and that process would take around a year's time. And what it means by marriageable age, you know, some places they're 17, you're a legal adult, some places 18, you know, the age range varies, but basically what I interpreted from this is that, you know, if the groom was able to start building onto the household, to the actual home, then that's what he did. I'm sure that, you know, most houses were not packed in like they are in today's society. Maybe they were. I'm not 100% sure there. But I wonder what they would do if there was no room to build, like, out. I wonder if they would, like, you know, then go, like, higher. You know, build, like, another floor onto it. Interesting to think about there. The time actually could take longer than a year. Like I said, typically it did take a year. But the groom's father would be the one to say, hey, you better have this done in, you know, 1 year, or you have a year and a half to get this done, or, you know, whatever, you know, time he deemed appropriate, or, you know, adequate for his son to get it done, is how long he would dictate for it to take. And from what I can gather here, the son built it himself. I don't think that he would have had help building it, because it was, you know, something he was doing for the marriage. Upon the time, you know, whenever it was complete, the groom would go to get his bride, and his bride would not know the time or the hour. Would not know the time that her husband would be coming to get her, because the time was between the father and the son. And when the groom would return, or would go get his bride, it was traditionally announced with a loud trumpet call and the shout, so that the bride, regardless of how little time it was, had some forewarning that this was fixing to take place. And something that I've really seen here taking place recently is that the wedding ceremony was rather small. You know, I'd be willing to say, like, the immediate family, like, you know, father, mother, brothers, sisters, probably the grandparents, you know, but probably no more than that. Maybe the best friend of either one, you know, and I'm putting this like in modern day terms. But the actual ceremony itself, and the party that was involved with the ceremony, you know, the people, was typically small. But now, where they may have skimped on the party that was invited to the actual wedding ceremony, they did not skimp whenever it came to the wedding reception. You know, it was a lot larger, much larger. And I've been to several wedding receptions, and some that had actual meals provided at it, some that were finger foods, some that had no dancing, some that had a lot of dancing. So I'm sure, just like in today's world, how the receptions are different, between each marriage. I'm sure the receptions varied back then as well. The groom's family would provide the wedding reception, and keep track of this, the groom providing the reception, the groom family providing the reception, the groom doing this, the groom doing that, the bridegroom or the bride does not know the time, because it's going to correlate with Jesus and God, as we are the bride of Christ, and we do not know the time that he will finish preparing the place. And the preparing of the place goes to, the groom going back to his father's house, Jesus going back to heaven to prepare a place for us, just like the groom would go back to his father's house and prepare, an addition onto the house. And I don't want us to forget either here, Jesus performing his first miracle at the wedding reception, where he turned the water into wine. And if you want to reference that, you can go to John chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. Let me make sure that. Yeah, John chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. And like I was just saying, keep track of the bride, the groom, and stuff. While I was just going through with the marriage and the betrothal and things like that. In his time that Jesus was here on earth, he often used a lot of the Jewish marriage customs as references to, things that he was saying, things that he was going to do, things that were, happening. And like I was saying, God's relationship to his church is, we are the bride. And you can look at Acts chapter 20, verse 28, for, more reference on that. And like I said, he's currently preparing a place for us, which is John chapter 14, verse 3. He mentions that as well. And at a future time, which no one knows, which goes back to the bride not knowing when her husband is, coming to get her, is, Matthew chapter 24, verse 36. And that's whenever he will return, Jesus will return for his bride with a trumpet sound and shout. And we can find that, and other references as well throughout the Bible. In First Thessalonians, chapter 4, verses 16 and 17. And like I said, there's a bunch of other references in here as well. And, we will be taken back to the Father's house. And, where we will be joined forever with the Lord. And that's Revelation chapter 19, verse 7. And we will, of course, then take part in the marriage supper of the Lamb. And this will conclude our Revelation chapter 19 verse 9, this particular blessing, because one, I've ran out of the notes that I took. I finished the note section, but we're going to be moving on to the next one here, and you can listen to that next week, of course. I thank everybody for listening, as always, and be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And I know that's going to be in the outro here, but as always, thank you so much for listening. Hope you've learned a little bit of something. I know I did as I was preparing notes for this. And hope everyone has a very blessed week. And I'll talk to you later. Hey, thank you for listening to the podcast. It means a lot to me. I just ask that you please like, share, rate, review, and if you want to keep up with each and every one of the podcasts, be sure to subscribe as well. You can visit us on the web at www.620lifepodcast.com. Again, that's www.620lifepodcast.com.